Ladies and gentlemen, imagine this. It's late at night. Your phone buzzes, and the name lighting up your screen is King Von. You answer, and what you hear isn't casual. It's not laughter. It's not music. It's pure panic. Bro, they're coming for me. Who? Why? And how did this call even leak when it was never meant to see the light of day? Some say it's a friend who betrayed him. Others swear it's the system pulling strings from the shadows. But what if I told you this wasn't just a call? It was a warning, a final breadcrumb in a trail of violence, betrayal, and backroom deals that have been buried for years. Anonymous insiders claim the call was intercepted, passed around in private group chats like a cursed secret. One alleged listener said, "The tone in his voice, I've never heard him like that." He knew. Knew what? That his enemies were closer than ever? That the street politics had reached his doorstep? Or that his own circle might have been sharpening the knives? Buckle up, because what you're about to hear will make you question everything you thought you knew about King Von's last hours. And trust me, once you know, you can't unknow. The streets have long memories. They remember every beef, every slight, every whispered rumor passed from block to block. And when you're King Von, a man who carved his name into Chicago's hip-hop history with both his lyrics and his life, the streets don't just remember, they keep score. This isn't just another rapper gone too soon story. No, this is the unraveling of something bigger. A network of secrets, grudges, and power plays that makes every rap lyric sound like a confession on wax. Von had enemies. That's not speculation. That's fact. He knew it. His crew knew it. Even people who barely followed his music knew there was a storm brewing around him. From old street rivalries to beefs with other artists, Von's life was a delicate balance of loyalty and paranoia. And then came the call. The one his people claim was never supposed to be heard. The one that, according to a so-called anonymous engineer, was recorded not by accident, but on purpose. Before we even get to that moment, you have to understand the buildup. This wasn't just some random night. The days leading up to it were filled with tension. You could almost taste multiple sources, the kind that speak only in shadows and refuse to put their names on the record. Say Von had been acting differently, checking over his shoulder more often, cutting calls short, avoiding certain spots he used to hit on a regular. One insider told us, it wasn't fear, it was calculation. Like he knew something was about to pop off, and he was just trying to figure out who was pulling the strings. And here's where it gets messy. Von wasn't just beefing with random street ops. Oh no, this thing went deeper. Industry deep. Rumors swirled that he'd been sitting on information. The kind of information that could ruin careers, sink record labels, and expose deals that would make even the most hardened execs sweat through their suits. But when you hold cards like that, you paint a target on your own back. Let's rewind for a second. Remember the altercation outside that infamous club? The one where Von's crew got into a heated exchange with another entourage just weeks before his death? That wasn't some drunken accident. People close to the situation claim it was a warning, a physical reminder that he was treading on dangerous ground. Another source, this one allegedly a security guard who worked events Von attended, said these weren't random guys trying to start trouble. They came with a purpose. And when they left, you could see it in Von's eyes. He knew this was only the first round. Then there's the money trail. If you dig deep enough, and trust me, we did, you'll find sudden, unexplained shifts in who was funding certain music videos, who was covering travel expenses, and who suddenly pulled out of collaborations at the last minute. It's like someone behind the scenes was isolating Von, cutting him off from resources and tightening the noose. And all of this, every tense moment, every pulled deal, every whispered threat led to that night. According to our so-called leaked timeline, Von had been in the studio earlier, laying down verses that, if you believe the chatter, were loaded with subliminal shots at some very high-profile figures. He wrapped up around midnight, stepped outside for a smoke, and that's when he made the call. Now here's where things get really bizarre. The person on the other end, not his manager, not a family member, not even one of his closest friends. No, this was someone from the other side. Why would he call them? What did he have to say that couldn't be put in a text, couldn't wait until morning, and had to be delivered in real time? Some claim it was a peace offering. Others think it was a warning. But the strangest theory? That he knew this call would be recorded. That he wanted certain people to hear what he had to say. And maybe that's why his voice, according to people who claim to have heard the audio, was different. No bravado. No trash talk. Just a quiet, almost resigned urgency. One alleged listener told us. It didn't sound like Vaughn. It sounded like someone who'd already made peace with what was coming. We're talking about a man who'd faced danger before, gunfire, street fights, arrests, and walked away with that signature smirk. But this time, there was no smirk. It's worth noting that earlier that week, Vaughn had posted a cryptic tweet, just 3 words. It's already set. At the time, fans thought it was about a new project or a release date. Now, it reads more like a final nod to those who knew the score. And yet, the real question is, who leaked this call? Because make no mistake, someone wanted this to get out. You don't accidentally leak a private conversation from a street-smart artist like Vaughn. This was deliberate, calculated, and if our sources are right, it's only the tip of the iceberg. We've obtained fragments, unverified, but chilling nonetheless, of what Vaughn allegedly said during those last moments on the phone. And while we can't confirm their authenticity, the words paint a picture of a man who saw the trap closing in. In those fragments, there's mention of them being closer than ever, of people switching sides, and a line that reportedly sent shivers down one listener's spine. If I don't make it, tell them it wasn't random. Now, think about that for a second. It wasn't random. That's not a plea for help. That's a statement, a directive. And if it's true, it means Vaughn died knowing exactly who was behind it, and why. But before we dive into those alleged fragments in detail, before we break down who they might be and what their motives were, you need to understand one thing. This story isn't just about King Vaughn. It's about an entire system, from the streets to the studios to the skyscraper boardrooms, where alliances are fragile, loyalty is negotiable, and survival depends on knowing when to keep your mouth shut and when to make sure the right people hear you loud and clear. And on that night, King Vaughn made sure somebody was listening. The problem is that somebody might have been the reason he never made it home. The problem is that somebody might have been the reason he never made it home. And that somebody, well, depending on who you ask, they're either a faceless shadow figure pulling strings from the safety of a luxury penthouse, or someone Vaughn had dapped up 100 times without ever knowing they'd switch sides. Let's get into it. According to a supposed insider who claims to have heard the raw, unedited tape of King Vaughn's final phone call, the first half was calm, almost too calm. Vaughn's voice was steady, but laced with a weight that's hard to explain unless you've lived with Target on your back. You know how this goes, he allegedly said. Ain't no coming back from what they set up. Now here's where the details get eerie. The they he kept referring to, he never dropped names. No direct identifiers. But if you connect the dots, and believe me, plenty of people online have tried, it lines up with a specific group in the industry known for making problems disappear. One so-called anonymous label executive told us off the record, Vaughn was about to air out some stuff on wax that could have tanked millions in future deals. And when that happens, people get proactive. Halfway into the call, Vaughn's tone changed. The volume dropped. You could almost hear him looking over his shoulder. The leaked fragments we've obtained include phrases like, "They paid him already. Ain't nobody safe, not even me. If I'm gone, you already know who's next." If these snippets are authentic, and again we can't confirm them, it's not just a conversation. It's a verbal will, a hit list in code. But here's where it gets even more twisted. Multiple online sleuths claim the leak didn't come from an enemy at all. They believe it was one of Vaughn's own people who let out to send a message. And that theory gained steam when a 13-second clip surfaced on a shady forum known for trafficking in industry dirt. In the clip, muffled and low quality, you can allegedly hear Vaughn saying, "Don't trust them, even the ones smiling at you." The comment section exploded. Fans dissected every syllable, slowing the audio down, running it through filters, even matching background noises to specific locations Vaughn had been spotted in that week. One theory, the call was made from a parking garage. You can supposedly hear the faint hum of fluorescent lights and the echo of footsteps on concrete. If true, that means Vaughn wasn't safe even in places he thought were secure. And the reactions didn't stop at the fans. A handful of artists who had been publicly cool with Vaughn started posting cryptic Instagram stories within hours of the leak. Black screens, prayer hand emojis. One even posted a simple message. I told him, you don't need to be a detective to know that in this game, silence often speaks louder than words. Now let's talk about motive. Because in every high-profile street meets industry case, the same question comes up, was this personal or was it business? Some lean toward personal, pointing to long-standing beefs, diss tracks, and old street grudges. But others argue that this was all about money control and the kind of contractual chains that can keep an artist locked into silence. Remember, Vaughn wasn't just a rapper. He was becoming a storyteller, the kind that uses music to hint at the truth. And there's nothing more dangerous to powerful people than a man with both a platform and receipts. One fan theory even suggests that Vaughn had recorded a verse, unreleased to this day, where he laid out the exact plan that would eventually take him out. If that's true, and if that verse ever surfaces, it could blow the lid off everything. Meanwhile, in the real world, the leak was causing ripples. Podcasts jumped on it. Street blogs picked it up. YouTube truth channels uploaded breakdowns with titles like King Von's Call Decoded, what they don't want you to hear. And of course, the denials came just as fast. One high-profile figure named in fan theories posted a video laughing at the rumors, calling them internet fairy tales. Another issued a carefully worded statement through a PR rep, saying they had nothing but respect for Vaughn and were deeply saddened by his passing. But the most suspicious reaction? Silence from the one camp everyone thought would speak up. No posts, no interviews, not even a vague tribute. It's like they wanted to erase any connection before questions got too loud. Behind the scenes, our so-called sources claim label lawyers were scrambling, not to find the truth, but to shut down the leak. Copyright strikes on videos, DMCA notices, threatening emails to anyone hosting the audio. Because if there's one thing the industry hates more than bad press, it's losing control of the narrative. And here's where it gets chilling. One person, claiming to be a former associate of Vaughn, reached out to us anonymously. Their message was short, but it hit hard. The call wasn't the first warning. It was the last. They went on to imply that Vaughn had been sending signals for weeks, using his social media, lyrics, even offhand comments in interviews to tip off certain people about what was coming. If you go back now and watch those clips, some of his lines hit differently. Like he knew. And if he knew, why didn't he leave? That's the million-dollar question. Some say loyalty kept him in the game. Others say he believed he could outmaneuver whatever was coming. And then there are those who believe, chillingly, that he'd already accepted his fate and just wanted the truth to survive longer than he did. The leak call then becomes more than just evidence. It's a torch, a way to pass the truth along in a world where speaking it directly can get you silenced. But here's the kicker. In the final alleged minutes of the recording, before the line cuts out, Vaughn's voice reportedly drops to a whisper. And in that whisper, he says something that's been haunting everyone who's heard it. Watch who calls you next. What does that even mean? Is it a warning to the person on the other end? A clue to the next target? Or is it Vaughn's way of saying that his fate wasn't unique? That more were on the list? Whatever the answer, that final phrase has become a rallying cry among his fans, popping up in tweets, graffiti, and even tattoo ink. Because whether or not the leak is real, the feeling it captures, of betrayal, danger, and an enemy too close to see, is very, very real. And just when you think you've heard the most chilling part of the tape, well, that's when you find out there's more. Because our sources say the version circulating online, it's not complete. There's an uncut master, longer by several minutes, that's being held back. Not by police, not by media, but by someone who claims to be waiting for the right moment to drop it. And what's supposedly on that extra part? Names, dates, and a plan so detailed, so bold, it would flip everything you think you know upside down. The question is, who's holding it? And why haven't they released it yet? We might be closer to that answer than you think. So here it is, the moment everyone's been waiting for. The uncut master, The full, unedited recording of King Von's last phone call is allegedly sitting in the hands of one person. Not the police, not the label, not even family. No, this tape is said to be held by a man known only in street whispers as the archivist. If that sounds dramatic, that's because it is. According to multiple so-called insiders, the archivist is a ghost in the industry, a fixer, a collector of secrets, a man who trades information like it's currency. He's the one you call when you need a problem buried or a truth sold to the highest bidder. And right now, rumor has it, he's playing both sides. One source swears the archivist has already been offered 6 figures to destroy the tape. Another says he's waiting for the perfect time to leak it. Maybe on the anniversary of Von's death. Maybe right before a major release from one of the names mentioned in that call. Because here's the part that no one wants to admit. This isn't just about justice. It's about leverage. If the extra minutes on that tape are real, they contain specific details, meetings, payments, even the exact night Von was marked. And if that information comes out, careers will end. Contracts will burn. People who thought they were untouchable will be watching their backs for the first time in years. But here's the sick irony. While the tape sits in limbo, the streets are already reacting like it's gospel. Von's enemies have gone quiet. Some of his old allies have suddenly moved away or gone on vacation for months. Entire blocks that used to be loud with music and laughter have gone dead silent. And the fans? They've turned into an army of investigators. Reddit threads, YouTube deep dives, even TikTok lip readers trying to match Von's voice patterns to moments in interviews where he might have hinted at this. It's chaos. Digital chaos that's spilling into the real world. One incident in particular made headlines. A mural dedicated to Von was defaced overnight. Spray painted across his face were 3 letters. TP. Theories range from tape to target and play. Either way, it's another breadcrumb in a trail that's starting to feel endless. Now, here's where it gets dangerous. Our sources claim that at least 2 people connected to the events mentioned in the leaked fragments have already gone missing. Officially, they're just out of contact. Unofficially, no one expects them to come back. And then there's a mysterious meeting, allegedly held in a private back room of a high-end Chicago steakhouse, where certain industry figures met to get on the same page about the narrative. Phones were banned, guards at the door, the kind of gathering where everyone leaves with the same story, or doesn't leave at all. What were they so afraid of? Simple. If the tape goes public, it won't just be a scandal. It will be a roadmap, a step-by-step breakdown of how power moves in the shadows, how money changes hands, and how silence is bought in this game. The most haunting part? According to one so-called tech guy who claims he's heard the master file, Von ends a call with a line that was not in the leaked version. And they're not done yet. Think about that. If he's right, then the story doesn't end with him. It means someone else, maybe multiple people, are already in the crosshairs. And if you look at the sudden paranoia spreading through certain circles, it's not hard to believe. Artists canceling shows, managers beefing up security, producers refusing to work late hours. Everyone's watching the door now. The fallout isn't just paranoia. There's talk, unconfirmed but loud, of retaliation brewing. Some of Von's people reportedly want revenge. Others want to let the tape do the damage for them. But there's a third group, one that believes the best move is to finish what Von started by releasing everything. Not just the call, but all the dirt he'd been collecting. Because here's the thing, Von wasn't stupid. He knew the power of keeping receipts. And according to those close to him, that phone call was just one piece of a much bigger puzzle. So where's the rest of it? Well, that's the million-dollar question. Some say it's locked in a safety deposit box under a fake name. Others think it's with a family member who doesn't even realize what they have. And the wildest theory? That Von set it up to drop automatically if something happened to him. A digital dead man switch just waiting to go off. If that's true, then we might not have to wait for the archivist to make a move. The truth could be coming whether anyone wants it or not. And here's the part that keeps me up at night. What happens if it all comes out at once? Not a slow leak, not a teaser, but the whole ugly truth hitting the internet in one tidal wave? You think the industry can survive that? You think certain untouchables won't be touched? Because make no mistake, if Vaughn's voice comes back from the grave with names, dates, and motives, there's no putting that genie back in the bottle. Already, whispers are growing that certain key players are quietly leaving the country, not for a tour, not for a vacation, but to stay gone. And if that doesn't tell you they're worried, I don't know what will. But until that tape surfaces, until we hear every second of what Vaughn had to say, we're left with a question that's as haunting as it is dangerous. Was this about silencing one man? Or was it about protecting an entire machine built on secrets, betrayal, and fear? One thing's for sure, the streets haven't stopped talking. And neither have we, because if you think this story is over, it's only just beginning. So here we are, 3 parts, hours of digging, dozens of so-called anonymous sources, and one truth we still can't ignore. King Vaughn didn't just leave behind a legacy, he left behind a question mark. That final phone call, whether you believe it or not, has shaken the streets, the industry, and anyone who thought they understood how this game works. The leak clip? Just enough to make you curious. The missing minutes? Enough to make powerful people sweat. Now, I want you to think about this. If the archivist really exists, if that uncut master is real, what happens when it finally drops? Do careers end overnight? Do people disappear? Or does it prove that Vaughn's last words weren't paranoia? They were prophecy? Here's what I know. Stories like this don't go away. They evolve. They twist. They grow in the shadows until the next piece of the puzzle falls into place. And when it does, you better believe we'll be here to break it down before anyone else dares to. But until then, I want to hear from you. Who do you think Vaughn was talking about? Was they a single enemy or an entire machine working against him? And more importantly, do you think the full tape will ever see the light of day? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't hold back. The more theories, the better. Smash that like button if you want the full truth to come out, and subscribe to Vaulted Vibe, because trust me, the story they don't want you to hear is the one we're going to tell next. Because out here, secrets don't stay buried forever.